Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. I always feel I should warn people if I'm just going to start talking out of silence. Does it make you jump? Did it make
It's
you
just a
jump,
big
Connor?
bang.
Bang! Yeah, maybe what we'll do is get a little tiny bell or a gentle bell. Ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling. Connor or John is about to speak. How are you doing? What's up with your big bad self, Connor?
I'm good. I'm very good. It's
Good.
can't believe it's Monday already. I feel
I
like my
know.
weekend was very short.
Yeah, they're too short, right? Surely we should do what some of those businesses do and they go to the 4-day week thing. Surely that should be the thing. Maybe.
I don't think we have time for
I
that.
don't think we have time for that. No, I don't think we have time for that. I know it's just bombed
Too
by,
much
hasn't
on.
it? Yeah, and you had a long one on Friday, didn't you? You were playing around with gambling apps in PowerApps, which I think is crazy stuff.
Gambling apps.
Gambling apps. Boo. Let me just check the live stream. The live stream's up, Connor. Oh, that's all right. Yeah, we've got our faces on the live stream.
Awesome.
Welcome to the big wide world.
Welcome everyone. Welcome Wayne. Welcome Gail. Welcome James. Welcome back. Welcome Sydney. Welcome Barry and welcome Eva.
Welcome. Lovely to see you here. Have you sorted your spider issue yet, Connor?
No, it's still under a bowl in the hallway.
It's very humane of you. Connor's got a big spider in his house, and I've been chuckling away to myself thinking about this big spider in Connor's house that he's terrified by. It's currently residing under a big bowl for somebody to come around and rescue him. To be fair, though, mate, I'd be the same. I think I'd be a little bit terrified by it. So
I don't
right.
do spiders, and everybody laughs at me for it, but I just can't. I can't go near them. I said to you this morning, I says as close as I can get is just about a foot away to put a bowl over the top of it. But this one's this one's definitely a runner.
They are in the UK right now. They are breeding season, I think, and the big mummies come out to go, hello, I'm here, and they are runners. Oh, black widows, Sydney. Ooh, yeah. Oh, welcome, Barry.
I personally think that they hold a grudge because we don't kill them. We throw them off the balcony. But they're so light that they just kind of glide down, don't they? Like they don't get hurt. They fall at like half a mile an hour. But I think we're on a three-story flat, and I think that they realised what we've done. We've taken them out of their nice warm home, and I think over the next like couple of days they find their way back up to our flat, just to terrorise me.
Do you think that's what it is? They've gone.
I think that's what it is.
That person did a bad thing to me. I don't like heights, says Mrs. Spider. I'm going to go and get him for that terror that you put me through. That'd be
during
interesting.
the process, they eat everything in their way, so they're like 10 times bigger the next time.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's definitely a thing. I'm pretty sure that's exactly what happens, Connor, outside of your own crazy mind.
Have you ever seen the film Eight-Legged Freaks?
I have.
2001, I think it was.
I do like that film. I might force you when we get together.
They'll be that size soon.
Have you? Well, so on the subject of films, and by the way, Barry, we don't just talk about Connor's arachnophobia. Welcome if it's your first time here. We do actually do some PowerApps and Power Automate and all that good stuff. But first of all, I'm just going to rib Connor a little bit more. Have you ever watched the film called Arachnophobia, Connor?
I haven't.
I might actually tie you to a chair.
For that.
When we get together, we're getting together for a business meeting next week. To think about our strategy for the next quarter and the next sort of half a year, but I might tie you to a chair and force you to watch Arachnophobia because I'm not like massively. I am worried about spiders a bit, but honestly, this is one that makes you curl your entire body up into a small bunch and hide from the TV. It's so good. They are spiders, Susan. Sorry,
I can look at them and I could watch them. It's when that I'm in an open space with them.
Okay, when they can get you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm still waiting for the day where I'm doing perhaps a live stream. Maybe it'll happen on one of my my Poker Fridays, where I'm doing a live stream for the academy and one runs across my desk, because I think some words will come out of my mouth that that many people wouldn't appreciate.
Well, either that, or you just have to be careful if people have got glasses next to them, because I've heard you scream in a high-pitched scream. You might shatter some glass in the universe. To be fair, though, my friend, I think I would be exactly the same. I think if I saw a big tarantula, creepy crawly, certainly tarantula, Sydney. We're lucky in the UK, we don't have deadly spiders, but you clearly do. I'd probably do a little bit of a small wetting sound. There's an Australian chap, crikey, forget his name now. He's spoken with us a few times, and he told me a story that he was on a meeting, and in the back of his room, somebody said to him, he was doing some training in MCT, and they said, "You've got a huntsman behind you," and honestly, huntsmen are like this; they're ginormous beasts. And he said, "Oh, I'm not bothered about it. It was fine." He just carried on, which I think quite crazy.
Going back a few months, I mean, my sister, she lives in Adelaide, and she posted on a Facebook story. She was out camping with her partner, and she woke up and there was a tarantula. Not even joking, huge tarantula right outside her tent, and it wasn't the normal reaction that you would see. She literally turned around to it and went, "Oh, hello," like that, and put her hand out to it. And I'm thinking,
That's
no,
great.
what is wrong with you?
Great. If it knows your intent is not to drop it 3 stories from your balcony, Connor, spiders are your friends. They bring you presents. They keep wasps away. They're very good to you. You've just been bad to spiders in the past. That's the problem, I think. Good on her. Good on her. Should we talk about some Microsoft stuff?
Yes, let's.
For those of you new to this, we're doing a weekly. This is a weekly thing. Connor and I come on, and as you've seen, we chat. It's very informal. It's a chance, if you'd like, if you have any questions or areas around Microsoft that you're interested in, stuck with, any questions around the academy, how to get access to content, what's going to work for you, you can bring them to us here. Pop them into chat and we'll talk them through. But equally, what we do is we meander through some topics that have come on our radar over the last week, and we'll just surface them, talk about them. Sometimes we'll do a demo or two. Today, I think we've got a couple of bits, haven't we, Connor? I've got just looking at my list, I definitely want to do some good stuff today to announce the winners of last week's competition, which closed today, the Power Automate desktop competition. And that's revealed some very creative people. So I'm looking forward to doing that. And we can do a little demo, aren't we? Create a quick Power App.
Sure are.
Which would be cool. What have you got in your head you'd like to talk about today? Or what have you been up to, should I say?
Yeah, there's a few things. A couple of people here on today's live were with me on Friday, so they'll see some of the challenges that we faced on Friday with the poker build, which for those, again, that don't know, not going to go too much into it, but essentially we're building every Friday. We're jumping into PowerApps and building a poker game inside of PowerApps for your kind of tenant, your organisation to use and play games with. But yeah, we ran into a little bit of an issue, and it's something that I didn't realise was a thing until obviously I encountered it, which tends to be the case for most things, and that is the fact that lookups inside of Dataverse only allow you to bring back one result. So you can only bring back one record inside of a lookup column by default, which is quite interesting because, I mean, anyone that's worked with SharePoint, there's kind of ways around that, and you can do multiple selection in terms of the choices and stuff like that you can bring back. So yeah, I've kind of had to figure out a way around that problem, because the idea kind of behind it was basically I was trying to get people into a lobby, into a poker table, and I was assigning users from another table users from another Dataverse table into my poker tables table, using table multiple times there in the same phrase.
Should be a different phrase for it, shouldn't it? Your poker location needed people from a table. Yeah, and obviously that was posed quite a big issue on Friday, because obviously you can't play poker with just yourself.
So yeah, we ended up kind of diving into a few things and then realised that we had to create. Well, there's a number of things that we had to do to kind of get ourselves into that table, and that was the first one. We had to go into the Dataverse and create a relationship between the two tables, a many-to-many relationship. And then what that allowed us to do was to access inside of PowerApps, access a certain part of that table, and bring back its relational qualities, where we could then relate our data directly inside of PowerApps, which was quite interesting. But yeah, I'm going to go into a little bit more of that on Friday, because I mean, for those that have caught up on, perhaps watched it on demand, last Friday session already, you know, it's the last half an hour was a little bit of a kind of exploration, explorative period where we're trying to figure out a few ways to kind of get around that problem. So it wasn't very well explained. So I'm going to try and do my best to, when we come into Friday's poker build, to give that a bit more of an explanation as to what's going on there.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I think I just want to echo sort of what James says. I know we are coaches, and yeah, we do help people on their learning journeys. But I often sit in with you, Connor, and I think just the value of Friday sessions, and hopefully what we do on these Mondays, is it's not structured learning, is it? We go through the thought processes and try to go through the problem solving techniques. Certainly you're very good at this. You go through the problem solving techniques and try and share that with people that join you. So I think it is a really good learning experience to be just seeing how other people approach problems. So yeah, I'll be really interested to hear about that one when we get to it today. Yeah, cool. The other thing I was just going to say at the offset here is, because this is a chance for you as community members, and welcome to everybody who's recently just joined us. If you've got topics that are on your brain, it's not just Connor and I talking today, doesn't have to be anyway. Feel free to call them out in chat, ask things that are on your mind, and we'll see if we can pick any of those threads up and go on a bit of a voyage of discovery, because we're really happy to do that, sort of see where it leads us as well. So yeah, I mean the original purpose of today was us looking through, for those of you who are familiar, we look through the daily digests that have happened in the last week, and what we were trying to pick out was trends and big releases of Microsoft tech that might need to be showcased. But I think it's fair to say, Connor, isn't it, that the digest the last week has been mostly tutorials and relatively low level releases of things. I've not spotted anything massive, have you?
No, there's been a couple of announcements. Obviously there's starting to get a little bit of talk about some of the upcoming Microsoft events. I think Ignite, which is coming up in the next 2 months, is starting to be spoken about a little bit more now. So that'll be something that we will be sharing in the daily digest as and when those articles come in. And obviously we'll keep you updated on the weekly digest as well, as more announcements and news around Microsoft and their actual developments come into play.
Yeah, I guess it's sort of mid-release roadmap. I'm certainly looking down the digest, the recent and most popular articles. I'll share this with people on my screen. Actually, let's just quickly share my screen. Choose the right screen. We often look at, this is a site called today.collab365.com, which I hope people can see on their screens. Connor and I will often just pop through this. The daily digest that you receive in your inbox via this is driven with the same artifacts and articles. But yeah, I'm seeing a lot of how, including our own, a lot of how-to tutorials in the last week or so, which are great. You know, if you want to dip into some of these tutorials, there's some really good topics to pick out here, but nothing major, which probably coincides, as I say, with the release life cycle. We've been busy, haven't we? We've put a few articles into here, I think, in the last week or so.
Yeah, one of the ones I worked on last week, again, for those that do keep up with my own little things that are going on here at Collab365, I've been obviously working on the PowerApps Pathfinder Challenge, which is all about components inside of PowerApps. And as I was starting to build this out, I thought it'd be really nice to kind of share some of those kind of initial concepts with people about what a component actually is, how they kind of work. So I did spend a couple of hours putting together a blog post. In fact, what I'll do is I'll just
yeah, I'm just
I'll
going to find it now for you, Connor. I'll post the link.
just copy and paste that into chat for you there.
Oh, brilliant. Well done.
And yeah, it's only a short read, I think, but it's a really good kind of insight into what PowerApps components are, how you can kind of use them, and to really kind of give you that mindset around why you would need a component in the first place, and why they're built, and how they're built slightly differently to the way perhaps you would build your normal controls inside of apps. So yeah, it really does kind of talk about, I think, the two big principles which I like to kind of think of when building components, is that you have what's called an app designer and what's called a component designer, and that really kind of helps you differentiate how you build things and the structure of the way controls are built. Because I mean, the best way to kind of explain it is that PowerApps designers, I mean, let's say, for example, we get somebody that's very, very new to PowerApps. They don't know how to really work with too many formulas, but they can kind of drag and drop a few things onto the screen and play around with some of the properties of it and get it to sort of work. The whole idea of the component designer is that they build all of the functionality inside of components that makes those components basically become plug and play with the apps that they used. So app designers can then take those components that have been pre-built or custom built for them, and then without any kind of formulas needed, they can then go ahead and just start kind of playing with the controls. They can change colors, they can change tables that a component might be using, for example, a number of different things that they wouldn't have to otherwise go ahead and start writing formulas for. So that's one really good kind of powerful thing about components, and that's kind of the preface of that blog post that I wrote last week. But
yeah, I think it's really useful.
Hopefully it'll give you an insight into the Pathfinder challenge when that is released. I'm hoping to get that done by the end of the month, and hopefully get that on the shelf very soon. But yeah, hopefully it'll give you an insight into PowerApps components, and hopefully make you all want to take the Pathfinder challenge, or what will become the entire PowerApps success path, if you haven't already.
I mean, I think it's something that I think it's on. I don't know. I'd love to hear in chat if anybody uses components right now. I've got a suspicion that probably a large volume of us citizen developers, makers, whatever you call us, we work alone or maybe in pairs, small groups, and it's less common that you are part of a team. But I've worked in organizations where we're developing apps synchronously across different teams, and actually the idea of having a centralized library of components is awesome. I know they do it in languages like React. They have different screen components that they might pull down and use from, so buttons that are consistent with corporate branding. So I've always, from the very beginning of discovering this, thought it would be a good thing, but I'm still not seeing many people talk about these as consistently used things. So I think it's great that you're surfacing it, Connor. I think it's a really valuable tool.
I think one of the big things about components, and I often see this kind of, I'm not going to say it's a mistake, but kind of the wrong idea around how to kind of use them, is that the fact that we've actually got input and output variables that we can use to pass things into the component and pass things out of the component. And like I say, it allows you to kind of structurally build things very differently. So I can see, obviously, James said that he's used normally just to make consistent headers across screens, and that is again, was one of the kind of common use cases for them. But what's really powerful is the sort of things that you can actually expose in those headers. For example, let's take the header, for example. You might have a logo on the header, you might have a background on the header, and instead of kind of what we call hard coding or setting like constant values that the header component can use, which basically means that I could go in and set the background to be always green, and no matter what, nobody can change it unless they come into the component and edit directly. But what's really cool about components is you can expose a color or any type of variable as such, and you can expose that to anywhere where the app where the component is used within the app, and they can change the color of the for example the head of the component from directly within the app without having to go and change the component, which means it's unique to the app, but it means that they're built in a very kind of dynamic way that they can be reused across multiple apps in many different scenarios as well.
Yeah, I think that's, yeah, absolutely, Connor. I think it's a really nice, it's well worth a read, this one, and just reach out if you've got any kind of questions around that use case, because yeah, I think definitely the input and output variables are super valuable when you start to go beyond the static components, as I'll call them, sort of simple headers and stuff, and get into the navigation menus that you might be passing information to and passing colors around. It's brilliant. Yeah, really like that. Yeah, so sorry, I was just sharing my screen there to show people your blog. I've done one. I'm not going to showcase it because I actually would like to talk a little bit around the topic when we do our competition winners, which we can do in a moment. We're going to do a few bits, but it was all around the idea of Power Automate Desktop, and we talked last week about the opportunities out there for document automation are like many and varied, aren't they? And there's all sorts of tools like Syntex, and there's OCS, character recognition services, that you can use that will allow you to automatically suck information from things like PDFs. And what we discovered last week, and we set the challenge of, and we'll come on to that shortly, was you can use a thing called Power Automate Desktop to actually get access to an awful lot of information within PDF documents, and probably automate most of what you might go and spend a lot of money doing. And the best part is it's super free. You can make it a premium service, but you can also get around that a little bit with just using the desktop flows, and essentially have a really nice free automation tool at your hand. So I've got a post which has only just gone out. Actually, there will be a video to go alongside it, which just shows you how to do that, and it's based upon some of the good learnings that we brought into last week, but also I will include some of the tips that you're going to get probably from today when we do the competition winners. So we'll cover that. Just checking on the chat, see if we've got any questions. So apologies, Sydney, you're having problems seeing the screen share. It would have seen. I've just stopped the screen share, and we'll restart it in a moment, and then we'll just see whether we can get you to be able to see it. So just looking at that, I haven't got your head around enhanced component properties yet. No, I think that's something we touched on, Connor, wasn't it? The enhanced component properties.
Yeah, it's I mentioned this on one of the previous weekly digests. It's something that I've kind of opened up and saw where the power could be, but not really fully explored it yet. So it's something that I will be doing in the future. Whether it ends up in my component challenge or not, because at the moment obviously it's in preview release, but that's not to say we can add extra modules later on as that becomes a kind of main thing. But yeah, it's something I'd like to look into as well. Perhaps it's something that we might end up having to do for the poker challenge, for the poker Friday night.
Yeah, that'd be good. Cool. Okay, so look, before we get into the exciting competition winners, I just want to highlight a few things. And again, for those of you relatively new to the academy, if it's okay, what I will do is I'll share my screen. I hope you can see my screen now. Just to highlight a few things coming up this week, we have got a super busy week ahead. Connor's already said, you're obviously in this event now, the 18th, that's today. Connor's already said on Friday we will be going into the coaches build, which is more of the poker build that Connor's going to do. So make sure you click RSVP for that one. You will get reminders and all sorts if you do that, which is quite handy. But if Outlook and inboxes are the bane of your life, definitely check out Jennifer's free session tomorrow. Again, you can RSVP. There are all sorts of places you can get access to it. It's free to attend. Come along. It's an hour and a half. Starts at, I'm going to be very careful getting the timing right here, 3 p.m. UTC, which is 4 o'clock my time. Runs for an hour and a half. It's the first part of a really good set of sessions that Jennifer's going to do for us around streamlining this horror show that becomes most people's inboxes, where every day your heart sinks and you see like 100 emails landing in your inbox, all of which need different kinds of activity. So check that one out. It's a great session. It is followed up in a few weeks' time by part 2, which is all around automating some processes. That's October the 3rd. Grab hold of that one. But as I said, we've got a super busy week this week. We've got Ben Stedgink coming up as well on the 20th to talk about data loss prevention. So security of your information with teams, with people coming to your teams, people leaving your teams, and making sure that your sensitive data is tagged correctly, used correctly, and doesn't leave your organization without you being okay with it. So that's a really valuable one for any of you who work in the admin space. And again, it's free. Come along, click the RSVP and you will get the reminders. So yeah, we've got a busy week ahead, haven't we, Connor? There's quite a few of us on camera. That's not plain English, is it? We'll be on camera quite a bit.
Yes. And just again on that on my Friday one, might be doing something a little bit different on Friday. So we've got most of the kind of base stuff done for our poker game, but I think this Friday I'm going to see if see how far we get with my explanation and getting that kind of last week's stuff kind of rounded off. But I might be jumping into a few design tools to create some visual elements for PowerApps as well. So not using the standard controls, we're going to start looking at making some visual elements for the screen, which can make it look more gamesy.
Yeah, it'd be awesome, Connor. I know you really like your user interface and your sort of design elements, don't you? So it's a big strength of yours. One thing I will say as well, actually, and this applies to Connor's sessions, is whilst these events are free, come along, watch. If you're the sort of person like me that can't absorb everything in one sitting, I genuinely have to watch things about 5 times before they sink in. We have got the ability to watch all of this stuff on demand in our Platinum plan, which you can subscribe to. It's a free trial for 7 days, and then you can decide if you want to stick with it. But that also opens up a whole host, you'll see down my left-hand side here, of challenges, of workshops, of other content, including the vacation booking solution. So yeah, be sure if you're someone like me that just wants to sit quietly and watch this stuff at your own leisure, go and get our Platinum plan. So should we do some good stuff, Connor? Should we get to announce some people who are going to get some free Platinum plan membership?
Yes.
Right, drum roll. James did a drum roll about how long ago now? 6 minutes ago. So it's been a long drum roll, James. I do apologise for that. Now, what we did, in fact, I'll go back to my sharing of my screen. For those of you who may have missed out on this, I'm really sorry you missed out on the chance to take part, but we did announce it, and I have socialised it quite a bit. Last Monday, we launched what we call the Weekly Digest Challenge, and it was a challenge to enhance a Power Automate desktop flow. All the instructions were in the post itself, and extract some information from some demonstration PDFs that I'd provided. So I set people the challenge by midday today to go forth and come up with some fancy and creative solutions, and to let me know when that had been done. And quite a number of people entered. There's some fantastic entries. This is now closed, just for those of you watching this, but we've got some winners. Now, what we thought we'd do, and I'm going to put you on the spot in a moment, Connor, is we thought what we would do is we'd create a little random number generator, didn't we, to pick the winner live. So we're going to see how this goes.
Yeah, well, the initial idea was to do it based off the table, so we could show numbers and the names that they correspond to and everything. But I've had a bit of an issue trying to bring in data from an Excel spreadsheet into PowerApps, which you'd think would be the easiest thing in the world, but seems to be not playing ball with me today. So we will do a random number generator, and then we'll just have to look up our table to see who the number corresponds to. So
okay, that's fine. Yeah, so I have the winning entries in a list, in a virtual hat. So let's share your screen and let's see how we're going to craft a very simple app you're going to create.
I thought I'd give you guys the option. So we can either build a random generator inside of Power Automate, or we can build it inside of PowerApps. So I'll let you guys in the chat decide which one you'd rather see, and we'll go with the one that has the most. So PowerApps or Power Automate to build a random number generator. This can be done in both fairly simply.
People like PowerApps. Press a button, generate a random number.
Okay, so it looks like PowerApps is the winner for this one. So yeah, I'll just share my screen.
It's also quite good, this kind of thing. If you, I don't know, is anybody totally new to PowerApps? Just pop new or old time. Oh, excellent, great. Yeah, this kind of thing's really good, just to get the idea that PowerApps isn't daunting. Doesn't have to be daunting. You start small and you can scale it up. And what Connor's doing here is pretty much every Power App you're going to build starts in a similar fashion, in that you create the name from this interface, make.powerapps.com, and you go from there. And what Connor's going to do, I'll let him do. But yeah, let's take it away, Connor.
So yeah, we've got a blank new canvas called this random number generator. We can always revisit this later on if we ever need to run any more competitions or random raffles, that sort of thing. So it's kind of a useful tool to have. Of course, you can always go to Google random number generator as well, and that'll do exactly the same thing. But we're PowerApps specialists, aren't we? So let's do some.
It's kind of fun to do these things, isn't it? It just kind of reminds you how to build things, and stuff's always changing, isn't it, on the PowerApps canvas? So there's always new opportunities to grab.
So I'm going to add a new text label, and this is simply just going to show the winning number at the bottom. So we're going to go with something like, let's go 50 on the text, nice and big. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to have a button. This is going to be the button that allows me to go ahead and choose a number or generate my number. And then we're going to have, let's go for 2 text input boxes. Now you could do sliders for this. You could do a number of things, but essentially this is going to be a place where we can set our minimum and our maximum values, because obviously there's so many numbers that we want to draw from. We don't want a number that basically doesn't exist inside of our table. So I've got 2 text input boxes, and this top one up here is going to show the minimum value. If I just get rid of the default text there, so we can see the helper text underneath. And the bottom one is going to show the maximum value. So what we want to do is we want this button to generate a number. So we'll say generate winner, because we're thinking more about the UI here, the experience. So we'll go and move that up towards the top. Make sure everything's kind of in line. And we basically need this button to do something. So it needs to generate a random number. So if I can remember how to do this, because it's been a while, first thing we need to do is we need to use the rand and then the rand between. What this does is it returns a random number between a bottom and top evenly distributed. I think that's the right one. The rand returns a random number greater than, so if you use just rand, it's going to return you a floating point variable, which is going to be a decimal place somewhere between 0 and 1. So we're going to use rand between, and we're going to say that the bottom number is going to be, if we select our minimum value here, we can see this is the text input 1. So we're going to go for our text and then input 1.
Say it time and again, but there's great opportunities to reinforce that message about naming conventions, isn't there? If you ever build this yourself, because you just get lost and you're like text input 90.
We'll go do that. We'll type in here the minimum value, and this one will be called the max value. And then obviously we can rename this one here now to be minimum value. So minimum value. And I think if we do dot to enumerate down into its properties, there'll be a text here as well. So this is going to be the text property of this text input box. And if we do a comma after this, we can add the top number. So we can say that this is going to be the max value. And then again, dot text. Now, what's currently going to happen is when we press this, it's going to generate a number behind the scenes, and nothing's going to really be exposed. So what we can also do is we can turn this into a variable. So I'm going to add a set a formula at the beginning. I'm going to call this my var random number. Call it var random winner. And obviously we need to make sure we've got our close brackets there as well. And then what we can do is we can change this text here, this text box, to point to that new variable. So now our var random winner is going to be exposed inside of this box. So let's hopefully see if this works. If I go and add a number in here, I could say anywhere between 5 and 100. And you can see they've got 82, 38, 82, 7, 79. You can see that's randomly generating all of the time. Now let's check to see whether it's actually going to count those minimum and max values as well. So yes, we've got 5, 6 and a 7 that are coming up there as well. So we know that it's going to still allow for the number that we choose to be the minimum, or the number that we choose as max to be the max. Nothing so it's not just in between those. So now we've got a simple random number generator. How many people do we have?
Well, let me go to my my spreadsheet of excitement, just to reiterate what you here's what you could have won. And I know there's some people on the call who are in for this one, so this is great. We've got the option that you can either pick from 3 months of Platinum Plan membership. There is a little caveat to that. We need you to sign up through our normal process, which takes card details, but it's easy to cancel. It's easy to just take the free trial and disappear, but we'll credit you 3 months when you've done that. Or you can choose a workshop or a challenge of your choice. But what I will do is, when we've gone through the winners and we've announced it with a big drum roll, I'll get in touch with that one person individually, and we can decide how best to support you and give you the goodies. God forbid you've already got everything. We'll figure out something if you've already got everything. Hadn't thought of that scenario. But to answer your question, Connor, on the exciting spreadsheet of joy, which I'm just going to go and find right now, I believe I received 5 correct entries, which I have in front of me. So it's rows. Just let me check the row numbers for you, because that's what we want. Let's bring that over here. Not these ones. You can't see that yet. Row number 2 to row number 6, please. Or actually, it doesn't really matter. No, go 1 to 5, because I've got an ID number, and that will allow me to pick a winner.
Okay, so
Shall I do a drum roll? We should build up to this.
1 and 5. Give us a drum roll.
Sorry, yeah, it is my spreadsheet of excitement, James. That sounds really wrong, doesn't it? Right, I'm going to do a drum roll now.
Yeah. James has got the drum roll going.
James got the drum roll. Okay.
The winner is going to be number 5.
Mykola is the winner. Let's see if Mykola is on the call. I received that one today, actually this morning, so you got him by the skin of your teeth, but a huge congratulations. Let's just have a look. Are you on the call? I know I saw you earlier, I think. Perhaps not, but yeah, that's great. That's fantastic. Thank you, Connor. I think what I might do, the thing I wanted to bring out here is, so I'll be in touch with Mykola to discuss what's going to suit you best, whether that be 3 months membership. Now, don't fear if this wasn't your winning time, if my spreadsheet of excitement didn't excite you, it didn't give you a winning value. We are going to give more opportunities like this, and we've got some good ideas we are brewing in the background. Very similar ideas to this, where we'd like to set challenges and invite you to come up with creative solutions. But keep watching. I think the next one's going to be in a couple of weeks at the start of October. October, Connor, is it already October? Yeah, so we will be, now the spreadsheet of disappointment, I'm sorry, James. Well, I'm sure at some point, if you keep at it, it'll be that spreadsheet of joy. Yeah, so where was I? Yeah, I'll be in touch and we'll discuss the prize. But what this did show me, and James, you were one of the particular people that I would call out, actually, and I'd like to showcase your solution. There are many ways to solve the problem. For those of you who didn't see it, the problem is extracting data from a PDF that may be sat in a table. And I love the fact that people came up with really creative solutions. So perhaps what I'm going to do is, I don't want to rub this in, James, but I'm just going to show somebody else's solution. I'm going to go and find that solution now, and I'll showcase it on screen. So if you'll bear with me, I will share my screen in a moment. I'll take you through the steps really briefly. We won't go on for ages on this one. So let's pull it up here. Let me get Power Automate. Probably should have prepared this earlier because Power Automate is going to take ages to load up now. I'm sure it is. Okay, it didn't. It was quick. So, excuse me, that's not how you spell it. Okay, let's create this flow. The beauty of Power Automate Desktop, if you've never used it before, this is actually the solution that was posted to me by my Cola. I'll just take that off screen there because apologies, I did share the second name. You can just copy that text that you saw, and if you're on the post, you'll have grabbed it from the post, but you can paste it now. Very often, it doesn't work the first time, but it does work afterwards. You get a flow, so you could create your own little catalog of flows that do specific things. And I specifically love these regions that you include in flows because this allows you to separate your flow and give it kind of plain English chunks to what's going on there. It really helps you go and find things that are useful. But you could have a whole library of these just stored as text, stick it in a SharePoint library, and then when you need a flow to go and extract some data from a PDF file, you go and grab it. When you need a flow that does some careful pattern matching, you go and grab the pattern match using regex. It's really, really sophisticated and really helpful to do it that way. So looking down this solution, I thought it was a fab one because it built upon what I showed yesterday, where you've got some really simple entity extraction. So this action, recognize entities in text, is fantastic, dead easy to use. You just basically give it some text, you tell it what to pull out, and it'll pull it out for you. So that was done. That's what I gave people for free. I also showed the parse and get subtext, which is find this string in a set of text, take the starting position, work along as far as you need to go to get the piece of data that you want, and then go and use get subtext to get the next bit. So that was included. We also explored a little bit these things called regular expressions. I'm going to guess, James, you might have touched on regular expressions before, but has anyone else played with them before in different contexts or in the context of Power Automate? And yes, James, it is a good way to share scopes in Power Automate. You can copy and paste text in the same way. It's really handy that, just doing the copy and pasting. So while you answered that, so we did have a simple pattern match that we were using there, just for the benefit of anybody didn't use them in the challenge. Yes, yeah, completely agree. I'll show you this in a minute. There's a really nice website to go and play with regular expressions. But what you will see here is the solution that we received, which was the winning item, effectively created lists with different data items in them. And here we've got the current row item, we've got the tables from it, and this is particularly useful. I'll try and include this in the blog. One thing that always catches people out in Power Automate, self-included, Power Automate Desktop, is the syntax to enumerate into the objects that you get. And you'll see here what Power Automate Desktop has done is effectively create arrays, and you can go down through those objects using these square brackets. So what this is doing is looking at the document, getting the second table, because if you know this, you know it. If you don't, I'll just remind you, arrays always start at position 0. It's getting the second table, and it's creating what's called a data table out of it. Now, what you can then do, and I think we might have an example here, is enumerate into that item as well and get different aspects if you enumerate into it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take pieces of this and I'm going to do a post in the Academy, just a few examples for you that you'll be able to look at and use for yourself. I'll just run it because, in fact, I need to change my my source file up here, which is wrong. I'll run it to show everyone that it is working, and then you can go and rip pieces apart, use them for yourself, and create your own examples as you so wish. So let's just point it at my documents, point it at the correct place, the live demo. This should work for us now. So let's have a look at this solution running. So what we're doing is we're running through the document, we're getting a file, going quite fast, that's just difficult to see. We are extracting information in the form of a variable, the extracted PDF text, and then we create a whole bunch of stuff. And if you can see it down here, we've got the AI Toolkit workshop, as trimmed text. And we have a whole bunch of extra stuff. One thing I particularly liked about this was the trimming of text and the caring about data as it comes through. But as you look through this example, they're all really simple actions to get your head around. And that's the beauty of Power Automate Desktop, is it's got so many simple things that you can grab hold of. When you start to piece the logic together and look at examples like this, you'll go, ah, well, that wasn't so complex to do. Whereas initially it might seem like quite a complex task. So I'm going to encourage you to look at the examples when I paste them. But yeah, a very big congratulations to Michaela, if I've pronounced that correctly. So, okay, where were we? Let's just have a look. So, yeah, Connor, was there anything in particular you'd like to share this week? We've got like 15 minutes left. I don't know if you wanted to dip into this idea of data joining using the Dataverse at all.
Yeah, if that's something that's that people are interested in kind of looking at. I mean, I'm still kind of wrapping my head around it to fully understand it myself. I'd be interested to kind of also ask people that may have already looked at this if they have any suggestions on something, because there's a few areas of it that I'd like to kind of go into on Friday, which I'm still trying to figure out how to do. So yeah, if that's something that people are interested in Dataverse and relationships, then sure, we can go into that. I'm just going to try and bring it up on, because I think it's wrapped in a different environment somewhere.
Something we discovered, haven't we, is that you kind of need to take care of your Power Platform environments. Having filled up our tenant a little bit with empty environments with Dataverse storage allocated to them. So we're frantically deleting ours. So
hopefully you can all see my screen. So at the moment I'm here in PowerApps, and I will just go full screen. Actually, I won't go full screen because I'll need to come back at some point. But yeah, I'm here in the PowerApps dashboard under the Solutions tab, because I decided to wrap my entire poker game into a solution, just to make exporting and all that much easier later on. But essentially, if I go into my actual solution and I go into one of my tables, one of the big hiccups that we had on Friday was that inside of this table here, I've got this column called current players. We can ignore this one on the test here on the right. I have current players, and essentially this was basically a lookup to another table that I made. But the issue is, for example, if there was 9 players or 6 players inside of a poker game, then I wanted to be able to show which players are inside of that poker game. And out the box as standard, and after a bit of Googling around, we figured that you can't actually add more than one record to a lookup, which is a little bit disappointing. So we had to kind of figure out another way around this. And this was by essentially creating relationships inside a Dataverse. We were able to create a many-to-many relationship between those two tables. We've got that poker tables, and we've also got poker users. And I wanted a relationship between those, so obviously I wanted to be able to assign the users themselves to the actual tables. So if I can remember how I actually went around doing this.
It's interesting, isn't it, Connor? It sort of makes sense. If you're doing a lookup, you're generally looking for a record which matches with a lookup, aren't you? So it kind of logically makes sense. But in your use case, yeah, you absolutely want to retrieve a collection from a lookup or an array from a lookup, don't you?
Yeah. But yeah, with the help of, I think he's in the chat, James Williams, on Friday, and big kudos to James Williams, who was doing all the kind of Googling behind the scenes to kind of help me out with this one. We kind of came up with a bit of solution, and that was obviously to create many-to-many relationships inside of the Dataverse, and then be able to access that from within PowerApps. So if I go into one of these tables, into the actual kind of table dashboard, we've got this area here called relationships. And I already created a relationship to allow me to do this. But essentially, all we did was we created a new relationship where you can create many-to-one, one-to-many, or many-to-many relationships between whatever tables exist inside of your Dataverse environment. And what we did, we came to add a new many-to-many. And obviously, we're inside of the poker table at the moment, which is why that one's grayed out and set for us. But we could then choose any of our other Dataverse tables to create that many-to-many relationship with. Now, you can see here that we have poker user, and I'm not going to go and create another one because it's already been created. You can see that down here, our poker table to poker user. You can see it's created us a relationship there. But what's really cool about it is that we was able to create on-the-fly relationships from within PowerApps. So if I go back to my apps in my solutions, and we'll go ahead and edit this. Now, there's still a piece of the puzzle that I'm missing. I'd love to find out if it's possible, if anyone's ever done this before. And yeah, James, yeah, so yeah, that's exactly what it is. So lookup creates a one-to-many relationship only. But essentially what was happening is obviously I wanted to, when a user joins a table, and again, this looks terrible at the moment, but we'll be looking at more of this stuff on Friday. When a user joins a table, by pressing this join table button, we wanted them to basically be counted against the specific table inside of our poker tables list. And that's where this formula came in really handy. And this is, I don't know if you can see that. This is where we're using a relate formula, where we are using this item is obviously referring to the poker tables table. And it's actually enumerating down into the poker users now, which it's able to do through that relationship. And we're just basically assigning the current user, which is essentially a record from the users into that. But we're basically merging two records together as part of that relationship in here. And what was really good is I tested this out, is you can add obviously multiple relationships, which works really well for this use case, which means that no matter who's logged into the app, we can create multiple relationships between those two sections. The issue that I had was trying to expose this list, if you like, of relationships that exist between the two tables, because I mean, yes, I can add a control here, which is just a text label, which basically just shows me or counts the number of items inside of the inside of that kind of relationship of the poker users. But yeah, I couldn't find a way to get this exposed in terms of perhaps inside of my Dataverse table itself. So I don't know if anyone's ever tried to give that a go. But I'll be interested to see how we can see what relationships actually exist. So we've created the actual relationship itself, but how do we see which records are related to which other records inside of both of those tables? Is there a visual representation inside of the Dataverse that we can access to go ahead and view that? Because at the moment I have no way of retrieving any information about that relationship, not that I found anyway.
It's interesting that it's, I mean, I keep drawing parallels to Power BI a little bit, in so much as the models there, you create relationships which can be what the cardinality can be one to many, many to many, many to one, etc., etc. So you can create the same kind of relationships there. You can then have the concept of active and inactive relationships. So at any one time, there's only ever allowed to be that one active relationship between tables, but you can switch them on and off dynamically. And I've got this bit in my head when you've been showing me this, Connor, and I think it would be a great one to investigate further with the help from the community if people are willing to. What's really going on there? Because I've got this idea that perhaps it's creating almost a virtual view, if you like, that you're just not seeing. I don't know. It's a difficult one to understand what's exactly going on without seeing it visually, isn't it?
Yeah, one of the things that we looked at on Friday was potentially seeing that new relationship appear inside of one of these existing columns. But again, we couldn't couldn't really kind of dive and find that as such, which was
I'm just wondering if that relate is like, so crikey, it's been a little while since I've done this in Power BI, but you effectively you create, again, I'm forgetting the terms that Jessica's talked to us about, but you create tables which are the result of a filter, but that table isn't really a thing in the model itself. It's just the existence of a combination of filters to bring things together. And in your case, what you've done there is you've related two tables, and is that just saying, go and get me data from the two tables according to these filters that I've defined, which, and it can bring back many rows, but it just exists somewhere externally to your data source as such. I don't know. It's a really interesting one to dig into.
Yeah. Again, it's just it baffles me that it's not available. I should be seeing, or I would hope to be seeing, my poker users table now associated with this poker tables list of items here, which I can't seem to surface this anywhere. Whether we can surface it in the app is something that we'll explore on our Friday poker sessions.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting, that, wouldn't it? Bringing back multiple items via a lookup somehow, or a lookup technique.
I mean, I'll just give the kind of preface as to what I was hoping to achieve with this is obviously when a user joins a table, every other person inside of that poker table would need to see who they're playing against, how many chips that other person has, all of that sort of information that's basically being created or is being pulled from that relationship. So it's a question as to, this is going to work fine if I'm able to even just expose it inside of the app. But I know from my own, how I like to work is I like to see what's happening to the data behind the scenes. It allows me to kind of work with that data much more efficiently and fluently without having to kind of rely on myself writing formulas to retrieve that information. So yeah, there's no harm if I can't achieve that, but if that is possible and I can bring it in as a column, perhaps, I'd love to know how, because I've tried Googling and I can't find a way.
Often that's the way. It's the question you ask, not the question itself, isn't it? It's the way that you phrase it will get you the answer. That's where the community comes in, because it tends to have the experience to draw on. Yeah, it's a great one. There's a bit in my mind that thinks, well, that sounds like a great challenge to set some people, but I think that will be a bit too advanced the challenge to set for a prize. So we'll go away and we'll find a suitable challenge for the next digest winners to go after. That's awesome, Connor. So you're back on that on Friday, aren't you? 2 o'clock UTC, 2 o'clock GB.
1 o'clock UTC, 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock our time.
Oh, mate, times.
1 p.m. UTC.
Well done,
all these time zones.
Oh man, yeah, they're ridiculous.
I mean, I'm going to try and dive into a little bit more of that because I'd like to get the lobby side of things set up on Friday. And seeing how kind of time prevails with all of that sort of stuff, we'll get into some design stuff. So we'll be using some external tools, some third-party design tools to create some really cool graphics for the games. At the moment, as you've just seen with the app, it looks it's functional, or it's getting functional. Well, yeah, it looks terrible.
It doesn't look that bad to me, but I think it'll get even better as you progress through it. So look, we're coming up on the hour, which is where we're going to stop for this week. We will try and keep these to about an hour each week, although we do allow extra time. If you've got any questions around the academy, around getting a bit of help for work that you're dealing with, do feel free to stick around if you'd like to, and you can ask questions. I've seen Barry, you've got a question. I'm more than happy to stick around for sort of 10-15 minutes and have a quick chat with you, or set up just a one-to-one chat with you and we can go through it. But yeah, feel free to post any questions you've still got and we can stick around for a little while. If not, I think we'll say thank you very much for your company today, and we'll see you same time, same place next week. Thank you, Connor. Thanks for sharing this week. It's been really good.
Hopefully I'll see you all on Friday as well.
You will do. Yeah. Take care, everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Barry, if you're still on, I will just pop you a very quick message. Maybe worth us just grabbing a little bit of time together, and we'll see if we can answer your question. But for now, take care.